So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. You back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network Podcast here today. It is Monday, November 29th here today. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, November 29th here today, coming off of another big weekend in sports. You had a lot of sports on over the weekend. You had a lot really through Thursday, Thanksgiving, through yesterday. A lot of football. You had some basketball. You have hockey. So a lot of really great sports have been on recently. Football obviously had another big day yesterday as the New York Jets and New York Giants both were able to find a win. Very rare. Can we say that as Jets and Giants fans? Can we say that the Jets and Giants win on the same day? That is only the second time this season where the Jets and Giants won on the same day. So I recall the last time, I believe, was Jets beating the Texans and the Giants beat the Saints, where they both picked up their first win on the season. So the Jets, obviously that was week 4, I think, because I think the Jets moved to 1-3, and the Giants moved to 1-3 as well. So I believe those were the two. That was the other time this year where both teams won on the same day. Which you might say, oh, that's the second time this season. It's not like, it doesn't seem like it's crazy because, you kind of think, oh, wow, like second time this season, like it seems like that's like a decent amount, but you look into perspective, it's week 12. For Jets and Giants to only win twice out of this whole season, that means 10 other weeks, either neither of them won, one of them won, or they both didn't win, one was on a bye, one won, something like that. So both teams won yesterday. So for New York football yesterday, it was a very big success. And if you also want to really count the Buffalo Bills, you really want to count the Buffalo Bills along another New York football team. They also got the job done on Thursday. They had the Thanksgiving Day game there. So a very successful weekend in New York sports on the football side of things, and really just a very big weekend in New York sports in general. Mets making some really, really big moves. I'll touch more on that tomorrow. I want to talk more about the MLB free agency tomorrow. So I'll get to Scherzer, I'll get to the Mets, I'll get to the Yankees, I'll get to all that tomorrow. Today's more of a football day, wrap up the weekend, and then tomorrow we'll be back to kind of a variety of different things. But yeah, Jets got the win yesterday, so a lot to get to that. A very more so positive podcast today with the Jets getting the win. Obviously, I was not able to do a podcast last week, just did not have the time to do it. Obviously that, then you had Thanksgiving, all that stuff, so was not able to do it last week. I'm hoping to get more onto I'm hoping now I can really get onto more of a consistent podcasting, schedule again, really Monday through Friday. Like I said, whenever I can, I do them. So that's kind of just how it is. When I'm available, believe me, I do them. So, if I can find time, I will do it. It's just a matter of finding time because, also I like to watch my teams later, and I'm not going to do a podcast during one of my favorite teams' games because I like to watch them. So, a lot to get to today on the podcast. We'll recap this week's in the NFL, get to some fantasy. With that being said, let's just get to the topics. Just to run you through them, like always, it's a football, Monday, whatever you want to call it. It's a recap day. So week 12 of the NFL season is officially in the books. Pretty crazy I'm saying that. I mean, I know I say this every year, but it really does feel like just a couple weeks ago we were talking about the Jets-Panthers and getting ready for week 1 of the season. And it really was pretty crazy. Were we talking about Jets-Panthers and Sam Darnold's revenge game? And is Sam Darnold the guy in Carolina? Well, Carolina's got bigger issues now than just Sam Darnold. So we'll get to all that. We'll get to the NFL. We'll get to the Jets and Giants. Obviously, you can see her rocking the Namath jersey today. Very happy the Jets won. 3-8 on the season. It wasn't a pretty win, but it's a win nonetheless. And I always say, sometimes the wins that you don't always feel like you should have had, but you still get them. They feel even better sometimes just because it's like you found a way to grind it out. It wasn't pretty, but you got the job done. At the end of the day, it counts as a win. Your win total goes up. Everybody could say what they want, but at the end of the day, a win is a win, and the Jets got the job done yesterday. So did the Giants either. Neither team was on fire. I mean, the Jets scored, 21 points. Wilson definitely had a rough start in the first half, was much better in the second half, and the Giants, despite firing Garrett and all that stuff, they only put up 13 points. So it wasn't the prettiest of victories yesterday, but both of the teams found a way to get the job done, and that's all that matters. So we'll get to that. Get to the fantasy football update. Kind of an interesting week in fantasy. Had one very big win in my one league and had one really bad loss in my other league, meaning, this was a big week for me in fantasy in terms of playoffs and all that. One league, it was a must win. I got the win. In my other league, it was kind of a must win, and I didn't get the win. So kind of mixed emotions there with how I'm feeling about fantasy. It always stinks if you have one league that you win in, one league you don't. But we'll get to that. We'll get to the recap, kind of give you a little bit of advice for tonight's game. Like I always say, not much I can give you on a Monday night. At this point, the players you start are in. The only questions maybe you can make is, who do I do? Maybe should I start McKissick over Gibson? Maybe, I don't even know what could be another option. Maybe, a receiver or something over this guy, or who do I put on my flex? This guy. So I'll give you the best. I'll give you some updates there. Then we'll get to the New York sports update as well. So get to that. Mets getting Max Scherzer, just a massive, massive signing. Not only for MLB, because that was one of the biggest free agents out there, but just for the Mets in general. And you really look at their roster now and you're like, wow, the Mets, this is no joke. The Mets went out and signed Starling Marte. Now they signed Max Scherzer. You already add that onto a roster with guys like Jacob deGrom, guys with Pete Alonso, guys with, Lindor, who had a down year, but we all know what he can be when he's hot and when he's playing up to his ability. We know Lindor is one of the best shortstop in the league. When he's playing up to his ability, we'll see if he has a bounce back year. Even Mark Canha was a very nice signing. The Mets are really making some really good moves, and the Yankees are just sitting here staring into space, not doing anything, and it seems to happen every single year. But it was big moves for the Mets, and so we'll get to that. Like I said, tomorrow I'll get to more of that, especially today. There's supposed to be more signings. We just got word that Robbie Ray was signed with the Mariners. We also are getting more word that Corey Seager is expected to sign today. Baez also might sign today. So we're expecting even more signings to happen today. So I kind of made the decision. I'll talk about them all tomorrow. Talk about the Mets. If the Yankees decide to maybe wake up and make a move here, I'll get to all that. But all that being said, a lot to get to today on the podcast. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. Today's going to be like a normal day. I did this the last time I talked about the Jets. I did the Jets and Giants for a majority, and I went through some of the other NFL games and talked a little bit about them. I just feel like it's better. I feel like I was able to spend more time on the Jets and Giants and also really get into the games I really wanted to get to, recapping some of the other games. But to start it off, yes, you have heard that right. The New York Jets did, in fact, get the victory yesterday. And actually, before I talk about that, let me give you my game pick updates. So this week, I am 9-5 right now. So depending on how tonight goes, I will either be 10-5 or 9-6, obviously, hoping to be 10-5. Tonight's pick was very hard. I got to admit, I made my pick, but I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the podcast. What I tell you, I might change 10 more times before the game because it's a very tough pick tonight. And if you actually look at America's pick, it's 50-50. 50% of people think Seattle, 50% of people think Washington, so we'll see how that goes. But overall, my game picks, I'm 109-69, so I'm 40 games above 500 now with the game picks, so much, much better, in a better position. Week 10, I went 6-8, that wasn't good. Week 11, bounce back week, went 8-6, and this week went 9-5 with a chance of going 10-5, so 2 bounce back weeks, which is good. But that's my game pick update there, 109-69 overall, and then depending on how tonight's goes, you'll add add a win or loss, or hopefully add a win, in whatever category. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, the New York Jets got the win yesterday. And I really did actually predict the Jets. I had a good feeling about the Jets winning yesterday. I did. I kind of went into that game with the mindset of Wilson's back. It's against a bad Texans team. And it was one of those things like I felt pretty good going into yesterday about the New York Jets, but the fact that the Jets won, whenever the Jets win, it always makes you feel good. It always, gives you that nice feeling because, frankly, it doesn't happen often. And yesterday for the Jets felt like one of those games going into the game, even throughout the week, because I know I did not do a podcast, whatever. I know I did not do a podcast, going into yesterday's game, because I did not do a podcast at all last week. So I wasn't really able to touch upon it. But even throughout last week, you kind of got that feeling that, the Jets, Saleh, this team, it was almost like this game was almost like a must-win for the Jets. Not for playoffs, not for the division, because the Jets are way out of that. I mean, you win 6 straight, you run the table, okay, you have a chance. I don't even want to get into that, though. Now, would that be great? Yeah, it's not going to happen, okay? But you felt like yesterday, in terms of just the locker room, in terms of just the guys really buying into what Saleh is trying to preach, what the plan is here, you felt like yesterday was almost like that must win. And you went into the game, I went into the game with that feeling of this is a big game. Despite us being 2-8, you really look at with the Jets and in terms of where they can find wins the rest of the season, it's like yesterday was a really good chance to finally get back on track. It felt like the whole Mike White era was 10 years ago, and we were able to get back on track and get the win. And through all the drama, through all the, this guy's quarterback, Flacco starting, Mike White not, now Wilson's coming back, through all of that, the Jets were able to block out the outside noise and get the job done. 21-14. They moved to 3-9 on the season. Texans 3-8 on the season, rather. Texans fall to 2-9 on the season. And the Jets get what I really feel like was a very big win just for the locker room, for the coaching staff, and ultimately for Zach Wilson in his return. And yes, it was not pretty. It was not pretty at all. It was not pretty at all. It was not a pretty outing. The Jets' offense looked really bad for the first half. I mean, really bad. And we went into halftime only down 14-11. And you had that feeling, too, going into the second half. Only down 3 with the way our offense played was, amazing. You come out of the half, you get a touchdown, you're up 18-14. Your defense completely just shuts the door on the Texans' offense. And you shut them out in the second half. And you kick another, field goal late in the fourth, go up 21-14, and the New York Jets were able to secure the victory. Was it pretty? No. Was it gritty? Was it tough? Was it one of those games where the Jets did not play their best, but they were able to go out there and they did just enough to get the win? Yes, they did. And Zach Wilson did show some rustiness. He did. There's no doubt about that. That play to Ty Johnson, I don't know what in the world he was doing, what he was trying to do, but the Jets were able to overcome that. Wilson was able to put that in the rearview mirror and really go out there and really focus and hone in, especially in the second half. And I understand you can look at yesterday's game as a New York Jet fan and go ahead and say, well, we won, that's great, defense played great, but Zach Wilson didn't really show any improvement, especially given the fact that he's been learning the past 4 weeks and was able to get the opportunity to watch the game from a different angle, kind of got an opportunity to just step back a little bit and kind of watch from just a standpoint and really learn and see what other guys do. He almost like yesterday, you felt like he didn't improve much. But one of the really promising things yesterday you should take away if you're a New York Jet fan, and I did this too. Because, when you throw for 145 yards, no touchdowns, a pick, and you get sacked 4 times, you kind of sit there and think, oh, what did I do right? But what really impressed me yesterday with Wilson was how he came out in the second half led them down the field, scored that touchdown, especially late in the first half, they scored that touchdown. Then the start the second half, they scored that touchdown. And it was almost like he had that feeling like, wow, like this is, like Wilson really went into halftime and whatever somebody told him or whatever he did, he came out and completely erased what happened in the first half and just reset mentally and went out there and really played a great 2 quarters of football in the second half. And that's huge from a rookie quarterback. Because sometimes, and Wilson showed that this year, especially in that, 4 interception game against New England in week 2, he threw 1 or 2 picks and he started to force things. He started to get, panicky. He started panicking. He started to just chuck the ball and he started just to throw. And it was almost like he just got into this mode where he called hike and he just threw the ball. Like he just felt the need to just throw it and he tried to get everything back in one play. Wilson completely forgot about the first half yesterday, went out there and came out there in the second half. And I felt like in a way that almost like that break did him some good with that, kind of, success coming out in the second half. Because he was able to realize like, hey, I just got to reset. I got to reset. The first half's behind us. We're down 3. We get the ball to start the half. I got to reset and go out there and I got to help the team win. I know I'm not going to be able to get this all back in one play. I got to do whatever the team wants me to do, go out there and do my job. And Wilson did just that yesterday in the second half. And that was huge, I thought. That was huge to see from a rookie quarterback. Finally realizing, let me stick to the game plan. Don't do too much. Just stick to the game plan. Stick to what the coaches are telling you to do. And play your game. And he did that yesterday in the second half. And I felt like that was huge. That right there was huge. And although it doesn't look pretty on the stats, what really happened in that second half was huge for Zach Wilson. Because to be honest, you removed the first half, he played fine. He played perfectly fine. You removed the first half, he played perfectly fine. Second half, I think 100 of the, what was it about? It was around like 100 or something like that of his 145 yards came in the second half. So he really started to really turn it up in the second half. And very well, he could have had a touchdown. Ryan Griffin dropped a touchdown. It was a great throw. It was on the run, cross body. It was an awesome throw. Griffin popped right out of his hands. Hit him in the chest, just popped right out. That very well could have been a touchdown. That's not Wilson's fault. So there was some things, too, that Wilson definitely did not do great, but he also did some things yesterday that was nice throws, that he technically should have had a touchdown, but, he technically should have had a touchdown to Griffin, but Griffin popped right out of his chest. Hit him in the chest, just popped right out. So that's a play he's got to make. That's not Wilson's fault. Delivered a nice ball. Griffin's got to make the play. Wilson did have the rushing touchdown, which was, I thought, really nice. And supposedly what Saleh said today, I don't know. I assume it's true. I don't see why Saleh would be lying. But that play was not drawn up. The rushing touchdown from Zach Wilson was not drawn up. It was supposed to be a run play. But in the moment, Wilson saw something. As that play developed and he called hike, he saw something with the Texans defense where he thought he could make it, and he punched it in. So that was huge. Jets' run game yesterday was great. It really was great. That really is what won us that game on offense, was the run game. Oh, it was great. Austin Walter coming out of the middle of nowhere, getting the job done, was a spark plug for us. Came out there, gave us a bolt of energy, and got the job done. And the defense was phenomenal. The defense was phenomenal. With all the criticism the Jets have gotten on defense, and rightfully so, it's been awful. I have said it so many times throughout this season. This is probably might be the worst Jets defense I've seen in a really long time. The Jets yesterday really came out and, again, blocked out the outside noise, did what they needed to do, and got the job done. And that was huge yesterday for the Jets defense. And JFM, John Franklin Myers, had an excellent game. Really did. He had, 2 sacks. He had an interception, a pass defended, 3 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He was just on fire. And that's why we paid him all that money yesterday. And really his first big game since that extension. Quinnen Williams had a nice sack. Ronnie Blair got in there as well. And Quincy Williams as well got a sack. So the brothers doing damage. And that's where the Jets defense was so good in the beginning part of the season. And then it started to struggle, and it was struggling. It was looking so bad. And yesterday looked like the defense. Yesterday was what the defense looked like early in the season. Getting pressure, getting to the quarterback, sacking the quarterback, tackles for loss, stopping the run. That was the Jets defense we saw earlier in the season, is what we saw yesterday, and that's huge. Like, that is huge. You see what happens when your defense goes out there and makes plays. Is even when the offense was off, defense still got the job done. And that's why defense wins championships, right? You know, if the Jets would have let up 45 points, this game would have been over. They would have lost. Jets would have gotten smoked. We would be talking today about how bad the Jets defense was and the fact that the offense couldn't do anything. But instead today we're talking about the offense showed some signs, some positive signs. There was definitely some things that need to be worked on. But the defense went out and dominated. And that was huge. And you could sit here and say, oh, well, it's the Texans. You could sit here and say, oh, well, it was one game. No, a win is a win. And it was a huge confidence boost for that defense. That's frankly been not existent for the past 5 weeks of the season. So it was nice to see that as well. And the run game, like I said, was huge. Run game was big. Wilson had the rushing touchdown. Austin Walter had a touchdown as well. Those were the two scores for the Jets. The leading receiver yesterday for the Jets was Braxton Berrios. He had 47 yards. Elijah Moore right behind him with 46. So, 1 yard shy. But those were the two leading receivers yesterday. And then after that was Keelan Cole, 24. So it was not a huge day for the offense. It was not something that you reflect on this game. You say, wow, remember that game Zach Wilson threw for 445 yards? No, it wasn't. But what you do from this game is you look how good the defense played, and you look at the tough and the gritty win, right? We definitely didn't play to the best of our ability, but it was tough, it was gritty, and the Jets did just enough to get the win. And I always say this as a sports fan, right? A win is a win. Right? This isn't going to go down to the category of we won, but we didn't play great. No, it's going to go down to the category of a win. And what's going to go down in the category for the Texans is a loss. And at the end of the day, the Jets are now 3-8, and the Texans fall to 2-9. And that's how I see it. So, Jets did some good things. Definitely was not perfect. It was far from it. But the defense came to play. Wilson played much better in the second half. Run game was good. And I thought what was huge out of all of that, Javelin Guidry had a good game. Michael Carter had a good game. Bryce Hall had a good game. All of that. Bryce Hall had a big play late in that game. What was it? That fourth down play. Bryce Hall, that huge play. Out of all of that happened yesterday. I think what was huge was to see JFM really kind of just almost like he blocked out the outside noise and looked like the JFM we saw in the beginning of the season. And that was a guy who honestly looked like a Pro Bowler, looked like a guy that was going to dominate the edge for another 5 years with us. And that's who we got yesterday. Because when we signed him to that extension, oh God, was he terrible. He was bad. But yesterday, he came out and just dominated. And that was the Jets defense we saw in the beginning of the season. Getting pressure, sacking the quarterback. That's huge. And that's been the Jets defense this entire time. Salah's said it the entire offseason. What's going to depend on the success of this defense is whether or not the Jets can generate pressure. And the Jets haven't been generating pressure the last 5-6 weeks. And yesterday they generated pressure, and look what happens. They get the job done 21-14. Wilson went 14 at 24, 145 yards, 10.4 was his average per throw. So he did average a good amount per throw, considering, started the game off rough. But he did average, 10 yards a throw, which is pretty good. That's first down pretty much. No touchdowns. He did throw a pick. He didn't take 4 sacks there. He did have a rushing touchdown, though. He had 2 carries, 3 yards, and a touchdown. So, wasn't anything spectacular. I mean, what did he get in there on the 1 or 2 yard line, something like that. So he did have the rushing touchdown. Tevin Coleman had 16 carries, 67 yards. Ty Johnson, 6 carries, 42 yards. And Austin Walter, the practice squad call-up, 9 carries, 38 yards, 4.2 was his average, and he had a touchdown, and a big touchdown as well. Zach Wilson also, like I said, had the rushing touchdown, and that was the scoring for the Jets. As for the receiving, Berrios had 2 catches for 3 targets, 47 yards. Elijah Moore had 4 catches. He had 8 targets and 46 yards. And then behind them is Keelan Cole with 2 catches, caught the ball both times he was targeted for 24 yards. And, look at the defense. Your sacks were Quincy Williams had a sack, Ronnie Blair had a sack, Quinnen Williams had a sack, and JFM had 2 sacks. And Bryce Hall, like I said, with a big pass breakup late in that game. Javelin Guidry had a very good game. Really good game. Would use his speed to his advantage. Yes, they played really well. Michael Carter as well had a solid game. Secondary held their own. Like the defense, honestly, like I might sound like crazy saying this, but the defense did everything good. I mean, the defense pretty much did everything. Like the defense yesterday was dominant. I mean, you can't really say. I mean, sure, you could always find ways to improve. You could always look at things to get better on, but the defense yesterday was pretty much perfect. I mean, I guess perfect would be allowing 0 points, but the defense yesterday was pretty darn good. I mean, there wasn't many areas where you could say a guy didn't play good. All around played really well. So that was definitely good to see. But yeah, Jets get the win. So Jets move to 3-8 on the season, and we now get ready to face the Eagles this week back at home. So we snap a 3-game losing skid, and we now play the Eagles at home next week. And this is it for the season. So 4 of the Jets' final 6 games are home. So 6 games left in the season for the Jets. 4 of those are home. So you got the Eagles, then the Saints, then you're on the road against the Dolphins, and you got the Jaguars and Bucks, then you're on the road against the Bills to finish out the year. So Eagles, Jets coming up this week. We'll give you all that insight and all that preview later on in the week. So, we'll see if the Jets can get on a little bit of a win streak here and start to gain some momentum. And the other football team in New York, the New York Giants, also got the job done yesterday by a score of 13-7. Giants won, so the Giants moved to 5-7 on the season. Eagles moved to 5-7 on the season. Giants moved to 4-7 on the season. So, apologize there. Giants, win, get the win, 4-7, and the Eagles fall to 5-7 on the season. And I'll get to the Giants obviously, but I'll tell you this about the Eagles. This is one of these games, if you're the Eagles, where it's like you come into this game, there's a lot of excitement. You're 5-6. Jalen Hurts coming off of a really nice game, coming off of a very good win against, the Saints. You're competing, you're playing well. Not saying you're going to win the NFC East, but the Cowboys are, starting to fall a little bit. They've lost 3 of their last 4. Losing, Thanksgiving a game against the Raiders. They're 7-4 now. And you go into this game as an Eagle fan, and you go into this game as the Eagles, and you're like, this is a very winnable game. Yes, you're on the road, but the Giants are 3-7, coming off a brutal loss against the Bucks. And if you're the Eagles, this is a game that you got to circle as a must-win, and a game that you need to have, and a game that, although it might not look big on paper, is pretty big. Because if the Eagles would have won this game, you're 6-6, and yes, the Cowboys are 7-4. I'm not saying you're going to win the NFC East, but you're winning 2. You're just a 2-game win streak away from maybe being a 1-game out of that NFC East. Or you're, 2-game win streak away from having a solid wild card spot. And the Eagles yesterday dropped the dud. And that right there just cannot happen if you're the Eagles. And that's the difference between a team that is playoff ready and got a really good coach, and a team that's not playoff ready and a more veteran team and a more experienced coach. Is the fact that Nick Sirianni simply did not have his guys yesterday ready to play, and Joe Judge and the Giants, especially their defense, just like the Jets, were ready to play and came out with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, almost like, hey, if we want, almost like this is a big win for the locker room. Giants got the job done yesterday. And with all the stuff going on throughout the week of getting rid of Jason Garrett, the Gettleman news coming out, then on top of all that, you had the Michael Strahan jersey ceremony. Giants were able to really focus in and get the big win against the Eagles. And I always say it. I always say it as a fan. No matter what the record is, no matter what season it is, no matter if you're the dominant team and the Eagles stink or whatever, it's always nice to get a win against your division rival, and especially against a rival like the Eagles. A team that you do not like at all. The Eagles don't like you, and you don't like the Eagles. It's a nice rivalry in the division, and to go out yesterday, and it almost felt like really spoil any chance the Eagles had of maybe making a true run at it yesterday. Because now you look at the Eagles, and you're like, you're 5-7. Not that you're completely out of it, but very well could have been 6-6 today. You could have been 6-6 today going into your bye week. I apologize. Very well could you have been 6-6 today going in to go play against the Jets. And that's a winnable game right there. And I'll admit it as a Jet fan, that's a winnable game. And you could have been 7-6 going to your bye week. Then you come out of your bye week, you play Washington, Giants, Washington. And you're like, oh my God, we might be able to get to 8-9 wins. And yesterday, you just fall flat. You just fall flat. And it's almost like in a way, after winning 3 of their last 4, it's almost like in a way, it was like they got caught looking ahead a little bit. Like they looked at their schedule and they said, Giants, Jets, wow, 2 winnable games. Then a bye, then you come out of the bye and you have 3 winnable games. Eagles got a little bit ahead of themselves. And the Giants were able to take advantage of that. And the Giants, very similar to the Jets' performance yesterday. It was really not as pretty as many expected. The whole Jason Garrett getting fired and the whole this offense needs to be better. The offense only produced 13 points. 10 of those coming in the final 2 quarters of the game. Giants went into halftime with a 3-0 lead. So it was not pretty. It was not this stellar offensive performance where Giants fans could say, yep, that's why we got rid of Jason Garrett. No, it wasn't at all. But Jets defense too, but the Giants defense went out and made big plays. And I can especially say this. They made big plays when it mattered most. Forcing that fumble on Boston Scott in the fourth quarter was pretty much the game sealer right there. What was it? It had to be somewhere here. Jalen Hurts short right middle. Jalen Hurts pass. Here it is. Boston Scott rushed 45 for 4 yards. Fumbles forced by Dexter Lawrence. Fumble recovery by the Giants. And then the Giants had it. Philly burned all their timeouts. They got the ball back with 1:19, and the Eagles just couldn't do enough. The Eagles were just not able to get the job done. And that is really that's just what happened. That is how things happen for the Eagles. And the Eagles yesterday, nothing was going right for them. And you know that when Jalen Hurts throws a great pass to Jalen Reagor and it bounces, you can't catch it. So he catches that ball. We're probably talking today about the Eagles being 6-6 and the Giants falling yet again. And the Eagles having a realistic shot to really make something happen. So, now the Eagles fall and the Giants got the win. And I feel like too with the Giants, like I said, credit to Joe Judge for having his guys ready to play. Because with everything going on this week, in terms of the Jason Garrett firing and David Gettleman news coming out, and just all in all, right? You went into this game 3-7. You lose this game, you're 3-8. And it's like for the expectations that the Giants had this season of maybe making a push at the playoffs, getting guys like Galladay and all that, Barkley coming back, Daniel Jones' 3rd year, right? All of those things combined into one to have your year go 3-8 by week 12, that's pretty bad, right? So, for the Giants standards, right? And, yesterday was almost like one of those wins that you got to give credit to Joe Judge where he had the guys ready to play. because, with everything going on, the Garrett firing, right, the Gettleman news, and then just coming off of a terrible, brutal loss against Tampa Bay where it looked like Joe Judge did not have the guys ready to play. Today, yesterday you went out there, and it was also like the Jets game, a tough and gritty win. Was it the prettiest win ever? No, but it's a win, and that's all that matters. So Daniel Jones went 19 of 30, 202 yards, 10.6 was his average per throw. He had a touchdown, no picks, did take 1 sack. Offensive line did a good job protecting him. He did what he needed to do, and they were able to get it done. As for rushing, not a big day for Barkley again. I don't know what's going on with him. I guess he's still trying to find his groove or whatever, but not a big day for him. 13 carries, 113 yards, 3.1 was his average. Just not, he did have that big 32-yard run, but just not himself ever since that injury. And it's like, I'm not trying to be negative, but he's, everyone's saying, he's still got to get back to himself. It's week 12. Like, you would think by now he would be getting himself. We can't use it. We can't continue to use this as an excuse every week. Oh, he's still getting back. He's still getting back. Is it going to take the entire year and half of next season? Like, he's got to get going here. That is one concerning thing if you're the Giants, is Barkley still not putting up the numbers he once was. As for the receiving, similar to the Jets, not a huge day receiving-wise. No big receivers. Golladay did have 3 catches for 50 yards, so I guess it's a nice positive sign. He did lead the team in receiving. Slayton was behind him with 3 catches, 40 yards. And then Ingram had 3 catches for 37 yards. And the lone Giants touchdown outside of the Graham Gano 2 field goals was Myrick, the Giants, what is that, third-string tight end, I guess? Well, it's second yesterday because Rudolph, but their other tight end they got. 2 catches, 11 yards, and a touchdown. So he got in there yesterday. Guy I've never actually heard of until I was looking at the stats, and he got the touchdown. So, once again, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't one of these games that you go in and say, remember that game where we dominated? Right? Giants did dominate on defense, but not so much on offense. But if the defense can do what they need to do, because the defense at times this year for the Giants had been a weak point too. It hasn't been awful like the offense, but it's been a little bit of a weak point, a little bit of an underperforming kind of side of the ball. But Johnson and Love had the two half sacks, which obviously it takes to a full sack. And yesterday the Jets had the 5 sacks, Giants had the 3 interceptions. Xavier McKinney had a pick, Tay Crowder had a pick, and Holmes had a pick as well. And I believe Tay Crowder was the pick that happened in the red zone, which was just huge. Momentum shifter and just huge. And you look at all the pass defended. McKinney had 2, Robinson had 2, Crowder had 1, Love had 1, Bradbury had 1, Holmes had 1, Parker had 1, Jackson had 1. So a lot of guys getting their hands on the football yesterday and disrupting passes, and that was enough for the Giants to get the win. So they moved to 4-8. So Jets are 3-8, Giants moved to 4-7, Jets moved to 3-8, and both New York football teams were victorious. Now, something that's pretty funny, because that's how New York football is. You can never, really always go through a season without having to talk about the draft in the middle of the year. But if the season were to end today and the draft was tonight, without any trades at all or whatever, the Jets and the Giants would have 4 picks in a row. Which I don't know if it's ever happened, but this has got to be like the first time where the Jets and the Giants, or at least 2 teams, have owned 4 picks in a row. So the Jets, if the season would end today, would have the 4th and the 5th pick. That 4th pick being their pick, and then the 5th one being the Seattle pick they got in the Jamal Adams deal. And then the Giants would have the 6th and 7th pick. I believe their 6th pick would be the one of those would be the one that they have automatically. And the other one they have from the Chicago Bears deal that got them, Tony, and the Bears were able to get Fields from it. So that was that. So Jets would have the 4th and 5th pick, and the Giants would have the 6th and 7th pick. So New York, Jets, and the Giants would have 4 picks in a row, 4 of those coming in the top 10, 4 through 7. So that's interesting. That would be like, you talk about drama on draft day, having both of the main New York football teams having 4 picks in a row, Jets having the first 2, Giants having the first 2, or whatever, vice versa. But right now, Jets would have the 4-5 and the Giants would have 6-7. The drama going into that, like, almost like that old thing of, if the Jets don't take this guy, could the Giants take this guy? It would be huge. And having back-to-back picks anyway is big. Like, what do you take with back-to-back picks? Do you maybe trade out if you're not fully feeling like, whatever? That would create some excellent drama. Because what if the Jets and the Giants are looking at the same guy and the Jets take him and the Giants don't get him and he turns into this Hall of Famer and we're talking for it for years? That would be pretty fun. But no, yeah, that would be the case, though, if the season were to end today. So that is a little bit of a draft update. I hate talking about the draft right now. I really do. I love talking about it in the offseason. Talk about it all you want. But in the middle of the year, I'm not a huge fan. But that's just the reality of it. We always got to talk about it because it tends to happen where the Jets and Giants tend to have high picks. But we got to enjoy the wins, and that's what I'm doing today. I'm definitely enjoying this Jets win. It does feel great. It feels like forever ago did we beat the Bengals. I mean, to be honest, if you think about it, about a month ago, we beat them because it was the Halloween game. So we beat them. So it was pretty much a month. We almost went the entire month of November without getting a win. So I guess it is kind of long ago. On paper, it's not. But realistically, if you really think about it, it's been a long time. Alrighty. So let's get to the rest of the NFL. Ravens defeated the Browns 16-10. Packers beat the Rams 36-28. Niners defeated the Vikings 34-26. Broncos beat the Chargers 28-13. This Chargers team, man, like, they're very weird. They have good games, they have bad games. And I've said this so many times this year. Like, this season in particular, like, every year you have these certain things that go on, right? Where you have maybe a team that's not usually good that busts onto the scene, right? I don't think anybody saw the Bills last year making the AFC Championship game. I think we expected them to make the playoffs and, have a good roster, but I don't think many of us expected to make the AFC Championship game, and they gave the Chiefs a run for their money in that game, too. That was no easy win for the Chiefs. And Bills, lost, obviously, but that was no easy game. Chiefs had to come from behind and get the win. So last year was kind of like the Bills. A couple years ago, you had the Texans, right? They knocked off the Ravens. Then they knocked off the Patriots. They weren't able to beat the Chiefs. But they got there, right? The Niners was that surprise team, right? Kind of like struggling. All of a sudden, their defense is great. Offense does their job. They get to the Super Bowl. They didn't win it, but I don't think anybody at the beginning of the year saw the Niners winning the Super Bowl. And you always have those years where you have those surprisingly bad teams. Cowboys last year, missing the playoffs, finishing way below 500. Surprising. This year, though, I feel like, sure, you have some really bad teams like the Lions, Texans, all that stuff, Jaguars. But it's almost like, you look at it and it's like there's not that one team that is really just dominating this year. And if you and you could disagree with me, fine, you could disagree with me, but look at the standings. Record-wise, the best team is 9-2. But are the Cardinals really the best team in the NFL? Like the Chiefs, for all these years now, have the best record, right? And we all could say Chiefs are the team to beat. But if you really look at it, it's like it's kind of interesting. It's like could the Bucks very well could beat the Cardinals? I think the Cowboys are capable of beating the Cardinals. I think the Rams are. I think the Packers are. You go into the AFC and you're like, the Patriots are, Chiefs are, Bengals are, all capable, I think, of beating the Ravens. Bills are, Chargers are. I can even make the argument if the Raiders come to play, the Ravens are. Right? There's not that one team that you're looking at that's like, that team's going to be extremely hard to beat. Not that one team this year. Which makes it's a lot of unknowns going to the playoffs. A lot of unknowns. It really is a lot of unknowns. And you have teams like the Saints that usually don't struggle. Well, they're struggling this year. You have teams like the Seahawks that usually don't struggle. Every single year that Russell Wilson has been there, they made the playoffs. But they're 3-7. And you want to know what? Tonight is a must-win for the Seahawks. If the Seahawks win tonight, their season is over. Forget about it. Their season's done. The Seahawks are technically, out of the 16 teams in the NFC, are the 15th seed. The Giants, right now, if the season would end today, Giants would finish the year in a higher spot than the Seahawks. Technically, the Jets are in a higher spot. Now, the Jets have one more loss than them, but that's because they haven't played. Technically, the Jets are in a higher spot in the AFC than the Seahawks are. So, a lot of surprises. And also, there's not those one or two teams that you're really looking at that say they're going to be dominant, they're going to be really hard to beat. You can say that about the Patriots, yes. But you can say that about a lot of teams. There's not that one team this year. It's like there's a lot of unknowns getting into playoff time. Which is why I have this weird feeling that this year is going to be one of those years where a team like, I'm just throwing a team out there. Maybe Chargers, who have been inconsistent, but when they're out there, they're really good. Or maybe a team like the the Niners or the Vikings or the Rams or some. See, the NFC's tough because you can say Cowboys, Buccaneers, all have realistic. Honestly, that's true, but you at least could go ahead and say in the or the Niners, somebody like that, or in the AFC, maybe the Raiders squeak in and make this deep run or something. That I feel like might be one of these years again. Like, might be one of these years where it's just we don't know what to expect, and the outcome's just going to be crazy, and it's just going to be wild. And like especially yesterday with the Chargers losing to the Broncos. Like the Chargers, we were talking about a couple weeks ago after they knocked off the Raiders. We were talking about the Chargers possibly winning the AFC because they started the season off 4-1, and ever since that, they've lost 4 of their last 6. They lost to the Ravens, the Patriots, then they beat the Eagles, and they lost to the Vikings, beat the Steelers, and lost to the Broncos. So they've, since that 4-1 start, they've lost 4 of their last 6. And they are now 6-5. And they have a matchup against the Bengals, which won't be easy. Giants should be a win. Chiefs won't be easy. Texans should be a win. Who even knows now with the Broncos? They just lost to them. And then the Raiders. So do they now maybe squeak in as a 9-8 team instead? That now you're looking at it. That Chargers-Raiders game could depend that final wild card spot. So many things happening. I feel like this is one of these years where there's not that one team that we can really say they're going to win it all, no doubt about it. Right? There's not that one team. You could say about the Cardinals because they have the best record, but you're not going to sit here and tell me that the Cowboys or the Bucks or even you go to the AFC and some of those AFC teams can't beat the Cardinals. I think the Bills are more than capable of that. I think the Chargers, if they're playing well, they're capable of that. Definitely an interesting season there, which makes it for an exciting and very unpredictable playoffs is what it seems like it's going to play out to be. Buccaneers defeated the Colts 38-31. Bengals dominated the Steelers 41-10. Patriots defeated the Titans 36-13. I'm sorry, Titans are just not the same without Henry. It's just simple as that. They just are not the same without Derrick Henry. Dolphins defeated the Panthers 33-10. Falcons defeated the Jaguars 21-14. And then we all know the outcomes of the Thanksgiving Day games there. Alrighty. Now for tonight's game. Because tonight's game is, you can make the argument, not really the argument, it's really a fact. Tonight's game is a must-win for both teams. For whatever chance there is left of either team squeaking into the playoffs. Now, realistically, if Washington wins tonight with Philly's loss yesterday, Washington could go 5-6, which would automatically jump them up to the 10 seed. So, and in Washington, it would be like a win away and a Vikings-Niners even loss away from getting into the playoffs, which is just how crazy it is. So if Washington wins today, Washington will be 5-6, and they would jump up to about that 10 seed area, somewhere around there, and it could be really big. They could have some really big games coming up. If they lose today, you're 4-7. More than likely, your season's over. Same thing here with Seattle. If you lose today, if Seattle wins today, it's just a little step. Seattle pretty much, I feel like, is going to have to really win out. Because if Seattle goes 9-8, are they really going to get in? They might get in. Maybe they will get in. But it's a big game for Seattle. If Seattle loses tonight, they're going to have to win 6 straight. They're going to have to win out probably. Unless if you get a below 500 team, which is possible, that comes in as that 7 seed. Because right now, the 5-6 Vikings, if the season went to end today, 5-6 Vikings would be in the playoffs. So that's an option. But definitely a huge game for both these teams. And I really think this game could dictate really, kind of how the rest of the NFC playoff picture plays out. Because if Washington loses tonight, you can kind of go ahead and say Washington's probably out of it. If Seattle wins tonight, just because of Seattle and talent they have on their roster, you can't count them out. If Washington wins tonight, you're thinking, okay, 5-6, not bad. Maybe you make a little bit of a run. You get to 8-8, final game of the season, means something. Something like that. So, although tonight might not be the most great-looking matchup if you look at the records, I think it would be really good. And by the way, just 2 minutes ago, the line was 1.5. It is now switched. Seattle's 1-point favorites. So when I began talking about this, I swear, Seattle was 1.5-point favorites. Just like a minute and a half ago, that was the case. Now Seattle's back down to 1. This is a game that his line has changed a lot, and it very well could be Washington's by game time. Who knows? But it's a tough game to pick. But yes, tonight we got the Seattle Seahawks and Washington going up against each other. Seattle is 3. Seahawks come into this game 3-7. Washington comes into this game 4-6. Big game for both these teams. The Seahawks are 1-point favorites. The over-under is set at 47 for this game. This game goes on tonight, 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. It's close. On here, it's 67% of people think the Seahawks will win. On this other app, it's showing 50-50 that the Washington will win. 50% of people think Seattle will win. 50% of people think Washington will win. So it's close, no doubt about that. No doubt about it. It is very close. It's not going to be it's a very tough pick to make. So there's a couple different polls, and this poll here shows obviously, obviously the biggest here is 67% people think Seattle's going to win. So it just goes to 65% people now. It's dropped just now. So it's just going to show you that, it's changing a lot. And this spread is all over the place. It's close. It's a very close game. Now, I bounced back with this game pick many times already. I bounced back many times. I had Washington at first. I then switched to Seattle. And I'm going to stick with Seattle. So, here's my thing. I'm going to tell you this. This is how I did my game pick. And call me crazy, say that Chase Young wouldn't make that much of an impact. But if Chase Young was out there playing tonight for Washington, I would give Washington the win. But the fact that Chase Young is obviously done for the season with the torn ACL, not able to be out there, a stud on that defense, even though he's in his second year, it's almost like he's a leader on that defense. Without him, I just don't know if that Washington defense can be the same and do enough to stop Russell Wilson. And I'm kind of in that mindset, too, of, is Russell Wilson going to play this bad for this long? Like, his first 2 weeks back have been atrocious. Is Russell Wilson really going to play this bad? Like, I just can't see Russell Wilson going out here again, having another 2 interception and 150-yard performance, and the Seahawks losing 31-10. Like, I feel like eventually now he's got to break out of it and have a Russell Wilson type game, and that's 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Seattle's winning the game 35-10. So, what is going to happen? I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to go out there and dominate by any means, but I think he's going to go out there and play good. I think he's going to play good, rather. Play good. I think he's going to go out there and do much better than he's done since his return. And if Washington had Chase Young, you know how much I'm high on Chase Young. I believe he's going to turn into one of the better defenders in the league. If they had Chase Young out there tonight, I would be picking Washington. Because they don't have Chase Young, and just with the experience on the Seattle side and now more the inexperience on Washington side, I'm going to give you a little bit of the upper hand to the Seattle Seahawks. 24-21, they win with a late field goal off the foot of Jason Myers. So give me Seattle, 24-21, they win with a late field goal. I'm going to take the under on the over of 47, and I think the Seahawks just barely cover their 1 point. Give me Seattle, 24-21, a late field goal by Jason Myers gets the job done. I think Seahawks win. Now, am I pulling for Washington? Sure, I think it would be pretty cool for them to win. I'm in that boat of Washington. Like, I think Washington's so close to really being a true threat in this league. They just need a quarterback. They ultimately just need a quarterback. They got running backs. Gibson's had a little bit of a down year, but McKissick has been able to pick up the load a little bit. They got some good receivers. If they could stay healthy, good tight end. They got a very good defense. Chase Young will be back next season, obviously, after the torn ACL. Like, this is a team that's, like, in that position where, they're just a quarterback away. That is all Washington is. They're a quarterback away from really being to burst onto the scene and be a true threat in this league. And I truly believe that. So, I think there is a lot of people out there that think Seattle's going to roll over Washington. I don't think that's going to be the case. I really don't. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Russ tonight goes for like 2 touchdowns and maybe like 250 yards. I could see that. Something like that. I just think Chase Young, especially in the red zone, just causing pressure is just huge. And they just don't have that aspect. And giving Russell Wilson's time is not something you want to do. And I feel like he's going to have more time than he would have if Chase Young was, if Chase Young was out there. So I think the Seahawks will win. Alrighty. So as for the fantasy football update here, I'll start off with the good news and the positive. In my non-PPR league, I'm winning right now 76-74. Another one of these wins that is kind of close. Not really pretty. It's not something that, I didn't win 160-70. Another low-scoring affair. But got the job done nonetheless. And A.J. Dillon had a big game. Chubb only got me 3 points, but Herbert did his job. 23 points wasn't great, but he did enough. Kittle didn't play great, but some big performances out of Gallup. Chicago defense did well. Dillon and Herbert. Jefferson also got me 8 points there. So I'm winning right now 76-74. I have a 98% chance of winning. My opponent has nobody left to go. I have Antonio Gibson. Gibson has had some issues this season with fumbling. And the last thing I want is for him to fumble and this turn into me getting negative. I think it's -1 if he fumbles or something like that. But me getting, I don't know, maybe if he fumbles at a -5 yards, something, negative like 2 points and it being another tie. That's the last thing I want. And it's actually, is it going to happen? What are the chances of that? So slim. But Gibson has fumbled a lot this season. I believe he fumbled last week. So that's the last thing I need. So it has crossed my mind a little bit, maybe just benching him and taking the win. But it is getting to the point where if it comes down to a tiebreaker in my fantasy league, it's going to come down to who scores more points. And the past couple weeks, I haven't been scoring as much. Well, last week I did score a lot, but my opponent scored more, obviously, a lot. So I'm going to keep Gibson out there because I need the points. I really do need the points. Especially if I want to, get to the playoffs, I need as many points as I can get. So I'm going to keep Gibson in there tonight. It did cross my mind for a little bit. Would I have ever done it? Probably not. But it did cross my mind. And even if Gibson gets me 8, that's fine. Or 10. I'm going to win either way. It's not like I need Gibson to get me 30. I'm winning. I just need Gibson to just to go out there, take care of the football, and do what he needs to do. So with the way things are going there, it looks like I'm going to get the job done, and I'll be 6-5-1 on the season, and I'll probably squeak into playoffs with 2 weeks to go. So it's definitely going to be close. But as for my other league, things are not going as well as I lose. I'm losing right now 111 to 79. My team just didn't do great. I mean, nothing else I could really say. Tannehill got me 10 points. It's not good. 93 yards, a touchdown, a pick. That's terrible. Ty Johnson only got me 4. Thielen had a big day, got me 23. Brown got me 13. Dalton Schultz got me 15. But other than that, Crowder won. Atlanta defense, they got me 5, which was fine. Tyler Bass got 7, just not enough. I do have J.D. McKissick going tonight. The other Washington running back. So, I'm pulling for Washington's running backs to do good. But, I mean, obviously I would love, what would be awesome would be McKissick go off for 60 points and Metcalf and Myers to do nothing for him. But we'll see how things go there. Another thing too. McKissick can get me some points just to have him, come down to tiebreakers and all that stuff. So, with the way things are going there, I'll be 6-6 in that league. So 6-5-1 and 6-6 in my 6-5-1 league. I'll be 2 weeks to go. We'll be in a big position with playoffs. 6-6 league is going to be a little harder now, but we'll see how everything goes. All right, and as for fantasy basketball, I'm rolling right now. I've been playing and doing really good. I'm 6-0. So I got another win this week. I won 1,032 to 956. So doing really good there. Got a lot of injuries, but I'm still getting wins, so hopefully that continues here. As for today, I've got going Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Brandon Ingram, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and Miles Bridges. So a lot of injuries to update you on. Jalen Brunson is day-to-day. Brunson foot is listed as probable for Monday's game against the Cavs, so that's good news. Looks like he'll be playing. Jokic is still out. We'll see how everything goes with him. But Jokic wrist is questionable against the Heat on Monday, according to Harrison Wind of the Denver.com. Rashawn Holmes is also out. Holmes' illness has been ruled out of Sunday's game against the Grizzlies, so he's been out there. Cole Anthony's out as well. Anthony Ankle has been ruled out from Monday's game against the 76ers. And I put John Morant on IR, and I picked up Desmond Bane. So John Morant's on IR. Grizzlies head coach Taylor Jenkins said Morant knee would return this season, but has no timetable for his return, according to Drew Hill of the Daily Memphian. So he's going to be out for a little while. So I picked up Desmond Bane, expecting more of an increase in points with him now that Morant's out. So picked him up, and he'll be in my lineup, more consistently now. And then we'll get to the New York Sports Update and finish it off. As for today in the NBA, we got the 76ers Magic. I'll give 76ers the win. Heat Nuggets give Heat the win. Bulls, Timberwolves give, Bulls Hornets give Bulls the win. Timberwolves Pacers give Timberwolves the win. Rockets Thunder give Rockets the win. Mavericks Cavs give Mavericks the win. Wizards Spurs give Wizards the win. Jazz Trailblazers give Jazz the win. And Clippers Pelicans give Clippers the win. As for the NHL, we got 4 games on tonight. Kraken Sabres, I'll give Kraken the win. Canadians Canucks give Canadians the win. Jets Coyotes give Jets the win. Flames Penguins give Flames the win. And as for college basketball, we got 3 top 25 games tonight. Texas versus Sam Houston State, I'll give Texas the win. And Gonzaga versus Tarleton State, I'll give Gonzaga the win. Duke, now number 1 in the AP poll. The new AP poll came out, by the way. Kentucky's ranked number 9. Duke's 1. Purdue's 2. Gonzaga 3. Baylor 4. UCLA 5. Villanova 6. Texas 7. Kansas 8. Kentucky 9. Arkansas 10. Arizona 11. BYU 12. Tennessee 13. Florida 14. Houston 15. Alabama 16. UConn 17. Memphis 18, Iowa State 19, USC 20, Auburn 21, Michigan State 22, Wisconsin 23, Michigan 24, and Seton Hall 25. So Kentucky plays tonight, 9th ranked team in the nation. We're 5-1. We play against Central Michigan, who they come into this game 1-4. Kentucky's 30-point favorites. The over/under is 147.5. Today, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on SEC Network Plus here. And the 92% of people think, 92% of people think Kentucky will win by more than 30 points. Not fully up by who will win the game, but most people think Kentucky will win by a lot. So, I'm expecting that. Fully expecting Kentucky to win. I think we should all be expecting that. 5-1. These are the type of games where it's, you get, after this game, you have one more game against Southern University, and then you get into Notre Dame, Ohio State, and an SEC playing. That's like, these games are kind of like the warm-up games, like, boost your record, get going, get some team chemistry, and then the really big games start to come up after that. Alrighty, as for, that will do it for the podcast here today. Another good podcast in the books. Tomorrow, like I said, will be a lot of baseball. Mets get Max Scherzer. Do the Yankees decide to wake up and make any type of move? We'll see if Brian Cashman decides to wake up and do anything. I don't know how much more I'm supposed to say. It happens every year. Yankees say, oh, we're going to do this and the luxury tax and all that. And the Yankees sit and don't do anything. So we'll see if the Yankees decide to do something today. And maybe, just maybe, we'll sign somebody and it'll make us all happy and we'll feel good about it. But, as we're going right now, I know there might be a lockout and all that other drama going on. But put that aside, Yankees right now are letting a lot of top free agents just roll by and they're doing nothing about it. And the Yankees need to step up and do something. So we'll see what they do. But that'll do it for the podcast here today. No matter what happens with the Yankees or whatever, I'll still talk about it. What happens with Corey Seager, Correa, Baez. We'll get to the Mets, all that stuff, and all the big moves going on. So with all that being said, that'll do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.